The late and great Elaine Locke said there is nothing more galvanizing than a cultural past. In my opinion, there's nothing more galvanizing than using a cultural past to create a cultural future. Welcome to today's edition of Black Study Snacks. We are going to be focusing in on Afrofuturism. What is it as a concept? How might you have already engaged with it, and how can we use it moving forward to create an amazing future for the Black community? My name is Devon Travell, and this is Black Study Snacks. We give you bite-sized knowledge for hungry, melanated minds.
Black magic, black ones, mathematics. Black funds, black's classic, black's fun, we get blacker in the sun.
All right, so as usual, we want to start off with the basics. All right, we're going to start off with what is Afrofuturism. And while in my opinion and a lot of opinion of Black history and Black studies professionals, the term or the concept of Afrofuturism dates back to probably 1920 when we talk about the Harlem Renaissance and the New Negro movement, but it was officially coined in 1993 by Mark Deary. And he is a social critic and an intellectual critic, and he brought together a group of amazing Afrofuturists to do this panel. This panel was called Black to the Future. It had Samuel Delaney, it had Greg Tate, it had Trisha Rose on it, and in that they talked about their own experience as an artist and a contributor to Afrofuturism, but also on this new term and this new genre as a whole. So, definition, right? And this is the dictionary definition. Afrofuturism is a cultural aesthetic, philosophy of science, and philosophy of history that explores the developing intersection of African diaspora culture with technology. Right? So that is the textbook answer. Now, in my opinion, and in a lot of opinion of a lot of more modern Afrofuturists, that definition is missing a key piece. What do you think that key piece is? All right, I'll take a nice little pause, see if y'all got it. Go ahead and put it in the comments or in the discussion below. What do you think is missing from that definition? Now, in my opinion, and a lot of other modern thinkers, it's missing the social justice aspect of it, right? It's missing the agency or the power shift aspect that Afrofuturism has. So Afrofuturism also creates an alternative look at the future and even history through a Afrocentric lens. It expresses a shift in the narrative power, right? So again, when we talk about the Harlem Renaissance, right, and before in the Harlem Renaissance, right, before the 1920s, during the 1800s, 1700s, the narrative power of the African American didn't belong to us. It didn't belong to them, right? It belonged to the people who had power, who could write, who could create art, who could create movies based on stereotypes and what they saw as the Negro identity. But the amazing power of the Harlem Renaissance, and why it's probably one of my favorite time periods of all time, is for the first time in a large way, the African American, our ancestors, were able to now really take ownership over what content is being created through their image and what image is being portrayed out there, right? So we get amazing painters, writers, poets, musicians, sorry, let me not make up words here, musicians, right? And other people that are now able to create what the Negro looks like, and that was the New Negro movement. In my opinion, Afrofuturism does a very similar thing. It gives you, as an artist, whether you're African American or you're an ally, it gives you the power to create an image, whether it's in the past or in the future, of a Afrocentric character who, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but who follows some of those elements of what Afrofuturism is. Okay, so that is the introduction, the very bare bone basics of what Afrofuturism is. One more time, the dictionary definition: Afrofuturism is a cultural aesthetic, philosophy of science, and philosophy of history that explores the developing intersection between the African diaspora with technology. And again, if you want to to spruce it up a little bit, to remix it, all you would do is really add a layer of social justice and a aspect of power, an aspect of agency within using Afrofuturism in your stories. Thanks for watching. If this is your first time ever hearing about Afrofuturism, I guarantee you have consumed some type of Afrofuturism content before, right? This may be the first time you're being introduced to the genre formally, right, as an educational concept or as a cool cultural concept, but I guarantee you've definitely interacted with it before. So in this section, I kind of want to go through a few examples, both past and present, of Afrofuturism, just so you can get a better concept of what it is, what it looks like, and how you as a potential creator can add to the genre.
The truth, that's why the truth is so elusive. All this black magic, black ones, mathematics, black funds, black.
So starting off in the 1970s, we have the King Samuel Delaney, who is an author, writer, aka Chip. And from 1970s, he had Trouble in Titan all the way to 2017. We got Dark Reflections. He has a lot of Afrofuturism content on there and a lot of other planets, which I think is also pretty cool. Up next, a pretty popular one, we have Octavia Butler, very well known for 1979, her book Kindred, which is a dope concept. What it does is it takes an African-American woman from current day and will transport her to antebellum Southern slavery. Right, so again, you can imagine 2020 you or 2005 you being transported in time to 1805 on a plantation, and what that would feel like, both physically but also psychologically, to know that you're free but you're now transported to a time where you're not free. And that she has many other books as well, but that's definitely one of my top 10 right there. We also have N.K. Jemisin, who is the author of How Long Till Black Future Month, a lot of mini stories around that concept. And then we'll round this off. There's tons of Afrofuturism writers out there. Definitely get on Amazon, get on the internet, and search a little bit for some books and consume this amazing Afrofuturism. But last but not least, there is the MOOR mother, who is a part of the collective Black Quantum Futurism, and she is a poet and activist. So again, a lot of more stuff out there. There's the Black Futures Project, Octavia Butler, Parable of the Sawyer. There's Black Future Month by myself. You know, gotta pub your own stuff. There's How Long Till Black Future Month by Miss N.K. There's Toni Morrison, Bluest Eyes. Ralph Ellison, The Invisible Man. Tons of amazing books to consume with the theme of Black Futurism or Afrofuturism. All right, so reading's not for everybody. I understand that. I am just barely, you know, getting into my page flipping vibe myself. So maybe you prefer to listen to music. Again, in the 1970s, I feel like there was something that may have happened in the 1970s that just sprung this new vibe. The Vietnam War just ended, right? The Vietnam War was 1955 through 1975. A lot of social justice was going on there. There were a lot of Black soldiers that were over there in Vietnam, and then when they came back, you know, maybe you get that freedom, and now you want to express, you want to be, you know, free from the stresses and the agony of war. So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. You let me know. Why do you think Afrofuturism has a lot of energy in the 70s? Let me know below. But getting back to it, music. Sun Ra, Space is the Place, and a lot of other music. He was really a kind of a kickstarter and a catalyst to the Afrofuturism movement, not only in music, but in fashion and writing and art as well. Going to modern day times, right, we also have Janelle Monáe, amazing artist and actor. We have Missy Elliott, a musician, and I kind of categorize Missy Elliott as a visual artist because all her music videos are dope, right? And you can see the Afrofuturism in the fashion that she chooses to wear and in the visual performance and the dancing performance that she puts on in her music. And then last but not least, there's also a lot of, in my opinion, Afrofuturism inspired artists out there. But the last one that I'll talk about is the Wu-Tang Clan, right? Those bars, those lyrics, they're literally talking about physics within their music, like Wu-Tang Clan, top 10 for sure. Now moving over, all right, maybe you're not a musician, maybe you're not a writer, but maybe you got some bars when it comes to the art department. All right, so when I think of Afrofuturism, when I think of just black art and being cemented within a culture, JEAN-MICHEL Basquiat, hands down, is within that list. And he really got cemented within the culture of art in the New York scene around 1980. And to this day, you see his fashion, you see his art culture, and you see just him as a person. You see the influence that he's had on many people. And it wasn't just his art that was inspiring, it was his kind of unapologetic presence, right? The hair that he chose to wear, the clothes he chose to put on. I'm told, and I've been able to read, that he just had an electrifying personality when he entered the room. So that ability to be unapologetically you, and in you being unapologetically black, love it. So shout out to the king, JEAN-MICHEL Basquiat. So now, if none of that, if you didn't consume any of that stuff, if you don't read books, if you're not into music, if you're not really into art, don't worry. This last one, I'm pretty sure, is going to hit 99.76% of everyone else, and that is movies, right? So the number one, right, the biggest one that I think was a huge catalyst for this came out 2019, maybe 2018, and really set off the modern day Afrofuturism and maybe the modern day Harlem Renaissance, was Black Panther, right? When you think of Wakanda, right? When you think of M'Baku, when you think of just Wakanda, what it stands for, all of the technology, the royalty, the Afrofuturism, that is literally what it is. And that energy that everyone felt going to the movies, that energy that everyone felt wanting to be a superhero afterwards, is an incredible, I think, testament to the power that Afrofuturism could have. Right? If there was 10 movies out there that were like Black Panther, and every single month we were being inspired by these images, every single month we were being inspired by these powers, by this creativity, this technology, imagine what we would be able to do, right? But Black Panther isn't the only Afrofuturism movie out there. Listen, say Afrofuturism 4 times fast. Go ahead, I'll wait for it. All right, that was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I see you do your thing. But getting back to it, After Earth is a dope, good movie for Afrofuturism. I, Robot, Independence Day. Honestly, like 85% of Will Smith movies are probably Afrofuturism movies. Think about it. The only one maybe is the Ali movie, but even Ali had that Afrofuturism, or that at least pro-black kind of mindset. So go ahead and go through his catalog and let me know which movies from Will Smith are not Afrofuturism. But long story short, there's tons of different ways to consume the vibes of Afrofuturism. Pretty sure you've read one of these books, you've listened to one of these songs, you've watched one of these movies, and if you're like them, see again, how can you support further by making sure you continue to consume that content, or how can you contribute and create content yourself that adds to the Afrofuturism Rolodex? Thank y'all, and of course, make sure you keep on snacking. Peace.
I was in the truth, that's why the truth is so elusive. All this black magic, black ones, mathematics, black funds, black's classic. Fun. We get blacker in the sun of my black ones.
So we've been talking about Afrofuturism. We've been talking about it as a genre and kind of what other people have been able to do. We've been kind of, pushing you a little bit towards what maybe you can also do as an individual. And now I want to go through how you can create Afrofuturism content by going over the elements of Afrofuturism. Is that okay with you? You ready to go? Cool, let's get into it. So there ain't really no particular order of importance. You can use all of these, you can use pieces of these, but I think in my opinion, the top one is to have a Afrocentric or a black lens or black perspective to the story, to to the artwork, to the music that you're creating, right? And that doesn't say that every character, everything needs to be all about blackness. Definitely not true. Like again, in Will Smith movies, I, Robot, the main character, the protagonist, is black. So as you're going through that movie, you're kind of going through it through his perspective, through his lens. Okay, so that would be number one. Going to number two is involving some type of technology, AI, robots, augmented reality, virtual reality, but again, through the black experience or Afrocentric lens. Okay, number three, space travel. All right, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I think arguably could be Afrocentric because one of the side characters is black identified. But imagine that movie, like truly Afrocentric, truly Afrofuturism, could be really cool. Like a mix between Boys in the Hood and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, or a mix between Love and Basketball and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. A lot of possibilities there. Number 3, 4, I think we're on number 4. It's time travel. So if you watch Lovecraft Country, they do an amazing job of traveling through time, right? Time, universes, dimensions. They do a lot of dope stuff in there. That show is 100% Afrofuturism. A little bit on the scary side, not like scary, you got nightmares, but you might be like, a little bit. So you'll watch that in the daytime. But Lovecraft Country does a great job at time travel. So if you're able to somehow interject time travel, even like in Kindred, right, by Octavia Butler, she's literally going through time and now experiencing a different time, but still within your same body, still identity, but within a different time period. Boom, go ahead and try it. Number 5 is set in the future, right? So when we think of Ready Player One, when we think of some Transformer movies, when we think of some Avengers movies, sometimes they're set a few years or sometimes thousands of years, depending on the movie, in the future. And kind of the whole concept of Afrofuturism, right, is that there is blackness, there is a black community in the future, not just a black community that is, subservient, but a black community that is thriving, a black community that is still in charge of their own life and possibly in charge of other people's lives, who have businesses, have ownership, have agency to do what they want to do in the future. So you go ahead and write that script, go ahead and make that painting, make that music, whatever it is, but just add 100 years to it, right? Go ahead and make something that's in 2121. Gosh, that's gonna be so terrible to say 100 years from now, but go ahead and make your movie set in 2053, set in 2200, all of that good stuff. Number 6 on the list is using aliens or having the set in other planets. So when we think of Samuel Delaney, he does a great job over and over again of making the setting a different planet other than Earth. So as you're writing your movies and you're having your black characters in there, it doesn't always have to be on Earth. It can be on Mars, it can be on Alkebalon, it can be on a planet that you completely made up, right? So use your imagination a little bit and set it somewhere else in the galaxy. Lovecraft also does a really good job at bringing in aliens, other dimensions, and there is a time where Hippolyta goes to a completely another planet, but on that planet, black women are like the most powerful being almost in the entire universe in that dimension. So it was really cool to kind of see that power and that almost godliness in that scene. And last but not least, number 7 is to recreate a story or content. So when we talk about the movie Harriet Tubman goes back and it tells the story of Harriet Tubman through her own experience, through her own journeys. Being able to, watch Lovecraft, watch Watchmen, and go back to Black Wall Street and be able to see the history of the bombing of Black Wall Street, being able to see, how they built it up and all those experiences through an Afrocentric lens. So you could tell new movies, you could tell new stories set in the future, or you can recreate stories that we either think we know or that weren't even told through the Afrocentric lens or through the lens of Afrofuturism. So those are the 7 elements of Afrofuturism. Let me know which one you feel like you're just gonna, is your favorite to consume or your favorite to create. Again, there's telling a story through the Afrocentric lens. There's technology, AI, robots, augmented reality, virtual reality, there's space travel, there's time travel, there's setting your story or your scene or your art in the future, there's using aliens or being on a distant unknown planet, and last but not least, there is recreating a story or content through the lens of Afrofuturism. Go ahead and leave a comment below or put it in the discussion if you're enrolled in our course on which element you either want to consume the most or which element you feel like you will create in. Thank you for tuning in, and of course, make sure you keep on snacking. Peace. Malcolm X said, "Education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today." Right? So I know y'all may be thinking, like, why is Afrofuturism important? Right? Why is consuming this type of content even important? Right? And I'm gonna do a little bit of data. All right, a little bit of data, but studies have shown that early exposure to college, to careers, to role models have a positive impact on outcomes for the youth. So early exposure to things, to seeing people in the future, to seeing stockbrokers, to seeing lawyers, doctors, entrepreneurs, teachers, if you're able to be exposed to that sooner, it has a positive impact on your future. So my question to you is, when you're consuming the movies and the books and the comics, what are the African-American characters doing? All right. It's important because what those characters are doing impacts what little me thinks I'm able to do in the future. What those characters are doing impacts what my children someday will be able to look at a screen and think what the possibilities are for them based on what they're consuming through this screen. And you may think that, oh no, Devon, right? What I watch has no impact on me. The video games that I'm playing, the cartoons that I'm watching, they have no impact on me. Be careful, all right? Be careful. Let's go into some research by Children's Health or Kids Health by MOOR, and it says that kids who view violent acts on TV are more likely to show aggressive behavior and to fear that the world is scary and that something bad will happen to them. All right, so just the mere fact that you're watching these violent things on TV, and sometimes there is some violence towards black characters or black real people on TV, makes you view the world as scary and dangerous. If you view the world as scary and dangerous, you're now going to take less risks. Right? You're now maybe like, ooh, maybe I don't need to chase my dream and become an entrepreneur because the world is scary. Maybe I don't need to travel to Thailand, to Brazil, to Africa because the world is scary. And if you're not traveling, you're not seeing and experiencing more of the life that you could see. Next, teens who play violent video games and apps are more likely to be aggressive. If you're more likely to be aggressive, you're more likely to get into fights and altercations. If you're more likely to get into fights and altercations, you're more likely to get possibly arrested or even personally harmed, right? So I'm not gonna, bore you too much with this stuff, but the point of this is saying what you consume has a direct impact on how you feel and how you react. And what I love about Afrofuturism, at least as a broad term, right? I know there are some aspects of it that could be negative depending on the artist who's creating it, but as a broad term, the point of Afrofuturism is to put positive images and positivity into the environment that shows black people not only in the future, but also shows them having power and agency in the past. And if you're able to see that, experience that, and absorb it, I believe it will have a positive impact on our community and a positive impact on you as an individual. Okay, so my charge for you, especially after the end of this course, is to find some Afrofuturism artists that you appreciate, whether it's a book, whether it's a song, whether it's a movie. Find some positive content for you to consume. And if you don't identify within the African American community, find something within your own culture that you can consume that is positive, or continue to, you know, pour into the cup, be an amazing ally, and create content or consume content of the Afrofuturism genre. Much love, much appreciated, and of course, make sure you keep on snacking. Peace.